start easy, Andreas, why don't you explain us in a few words what is systemic leadership?
When it comes to systems thinking and the systemic approach to leadership, it's about the system is the social system. And what are principles within the social system? And when things lead to more unity, to more harmony, to more understanding within the social system, which principles are lived by or held up to, and what, in contrary, when they are ignored or not valued or harmed, lead to separation, fragmentation of the social system, the parts, the relationship falling apart. And in the relationship, but in the companies is more of which symptoms are present. If the role of leadership is not fully understood, sort of a demotivation in the team, resignation or conflicts arise in the workplace, but eventually fluctuation is a sign of, okay, sort of like alarm lamps, the system is falling apart. And the role of leadership is usually seen as the one who is in charge, the one who is in control, about status, about titles, and usually about superiority. And the ultimate question is, who is better? And being the leader is sort of the one who is who is in charge and is taking the decisions for the many. So it's the one who is taking decisions for the many. Looking into companies or corporations, institutions, when people leave and fluctuation happens, the usual case is those are people who are very independent, or at least independent, who say, I'm over it, and my talent or my potential is not being fully developed, or my contributions are not valued, are not seen, and then they leave the company, which made me think, what processes are behind which follow or are institutionalized to follow this maturity development from dependency to independency, but not stopping there, but going to interdependencies. I noticed in my environment, also the question arose, where is intrinsic motivation coming from? Where somebody is not being asked to do something, but is intrinsically motivated to contribute, to do things, to get things done, and is not being asked or told to do, but just naturally bring these qualities to their environments, communities. Also very present in nowadays companies, everything is extrinsically motivated. And at least those environments I've been mainly in, I noticed I myself mostly extrinsic motivated. The resources of money, time, and energy, those things can be managed. And but the motivation eventually extrinsically would stop at a specific point if it comes to money and distribution of time. So there must be more. And it was sort of this thinking where I tapped into learning more about myself, where I got to get along the system thinking and the systemic approach of leadership or true leadership and the application to corporations, which can be also applied to companies or families. The same principles would apply.
Where are those intrinsic motivation coming from? Is it something that as a leader we can foster to our employees, or is an internal individual work that every single person has to do on their own?
I think this is all about learning, and learning organizations, learning families, and the learning individual is, I think, this lifelong learning is the focus here. Within the model, and the model I learned with Campis Pusci, it's a model of thinking and acting, and he calls it the open system model. And in the system model, we would differentiate between three kinds of system thinking. We would differentiate between system thinking first order, second order, and third order. And the first order, system thinking first order, which is generally known as network, thinking in networks, network relationships, and there's a lot of work being done. The relationships are important, and companies invest in it. Network activities. This way of thinking in networks, is already based on quantum physics, quantum mechanics. Sort of, we live in an entangled universe, and everything is connected with everything. So it doesn't matter what I do or what I don't do. Everything has a far-reaching impact beyond my awareness. And the buzzword is cooperation, and a lot of things is being done here. However, in the network thinking, which is sometimes forgotten, is as soon as somebody else, sort of the principle of give and take, and we as humans, we have an innate sense if something is just or unjust. Sort of if give and take is out of order at this level of thinking, at the network level, people would just leave the relationship or would leave the company if they find a better exchange of their time, of their money, of whatever they want to do, and they would leave it for better opportunity somewhere else. And then sort of the whole person paradigm in the sense of as human beings, how do I see myself as a human? How is physical, and social, mental, emotional, but also spiritual. And sort of this give and take can be on different levels. And when this is out of order at this way of thinking, system thinking first order, people would just leave their relationship or leave the company because they're more valued somewhere else, or they get more money somewhere else or more attention somewhere else. And so it's very fragile network. But it's the beginning of a maturity development. So it's something good and to be encouraged, but it's basically based on independency. But people are encouraged, they're already empowered, they have my vision, I have my career plans, but as soon as somebody else is giving me another opportunity where I earn more, I'm leaving. There is no connectedness, no alignment with the company. And I just do what's good for me. No commitment to the system. On the second level, in systems thinking second order, which is usually known as holistic thinking, the whole, the one, and being part of something bigger than myself. So now it's the consciousness of I'm part of a family, I'm part of a team, and I'm a part of a relationship. This is it has less to do with organizational development. It's more a question of maturity development or consciousness. My sense of belonging by being part of a company or a relationship. And it's as soon as somebody is at this stage of development, being committed to the relationship, he gets the tools and the sort of the mindset to work on the relationship. So now, even if on the individual level, I may be very frustrated with the other person, and it's the notion that the give and take may be always out of balance. At this level, where it's commitment to the relationship, the people get tools at their hand to work at the relationship. And so even though there may be frustration of the other person, and because this is the give and take is always out of balance, and I know sometimes I give more, sometimes I receive more, but at that moment I receive less, it's not the moment I'm dropping out of the relationship because I'm committed to the relationship. And sort of this would be the main difference is here that person doesn't think, what is my benefit? What is my advantage I'm taking from this relationship? But here the thinking is rather, what is my contribution to the relationship? And how am I able to support others on their way? What do others need to belong, to feel part of? In system thinking third order, which goes beyond the holistic thinking, but also includes it, the system thinking third order is thinking in levels. And to understand leadership, to understand as a function for the system, it needs this way of thinking, in the sense that the alignment with the higher system, in the sense of what are the needs of the company, if it's a department, sort of the human body is a brilliant example of interdependencies. The organs all work automatically, individually, and they have a contribution to the well-being of the body. And if they're in alignment, they just do. It's not the brain who tells the heart what to do or the lung what to do, and they're also not in comparison. Only because the heart becomes so much appreciation, and now it's number one. Super, everybody wants, the lung wants to act like the heart. It's not like it goes, right? So similarly in the company, it's this understanding of what is the contribution to the higher system to be in alignment with the higher system. And here is a lot of misconceptions, a lot of confusions, which begin sometimes when companies say the biggest purpose of a company, like the Friedman doctrine, is making money. And we are in business to make money. Similarly, it's the understanding that money is the consequence if as soon as we do a contribution to the higher system where we are involved in. And so it's a consequence, but it's not the objective. What higher purpose or what higher needs are we serving? This is leadership. Sort of what is our mission? Sort of the mandate. What need in society or in our community are we taking care of? And this is where leadership starts. And then the vision, sometimes the vision, we talk about vision statements, specifically in company settings, sometimes the vision statement or mission statements are we want to be #1 in the European market in 5 years. And well, this sounds empowering and wonderful. And what's the difference if we are the second? If there is a need in society or a need in the community for this service, for the product, for that what we offer, what does it say to be #2? And usually it's this thinking of what we would call the fragmented thinking is always in competition, always in comparison, constant struggle and strive for superiority. Who is better is sort of the mantra or the canon. Thinking in levels, system thinking, third order, includes holistic thinking, but goes beyond. Here it's about service. How can we be of service to humanity, to the community, from the department perspective, to the company, and there's an individual as well. And what sort of the two questions, what does the world need right now? And the second question, sort of, what does the world need from me? And from that place, what is my specific contribution I can do? And nobody needs to tell me what to do or not to do. I'm in alignment. It's sort of it's serving my highest values, and in alignment with this need of the higher system. And would be interdependency. So interdependency in that sense is a choice only an independent person can do. And when we enter in a family or a company, we all enter on a dependent level. We are all dependent on the father or the mother or people in authority. But it's not to keep them in dependency, but it's to move them with this understanding and system thinking third order of unity to accompany others on their way to more interdependency.
How do you elevate? Because I love the theory of the first, second, and third order. It's a journey. What did you find in your experience are the way through which people understand and start to see the next step?
It may seem that one builds up on the other. So that we start with the first order of fragmented thinking. People are always in competition and in fights, and sort of the egoism and egocentrism, what we see in the world is so present. To be also aware of sort of it's a two-folded process. One is entropic wars and crisis, but there's also the process of a unifying process where people with this consciousness, they also unite and do things, which is usually a silent process. The other one screams for attention. This process of systems thinking is an inner process. And it's an inner process which reflects then or manifests in organizational settings, but also in families of how do I approach my family? And sort of it can happen very suddenly. It's not that I need to pass through system thinking first order to be able to step into the second. And it's rather, it's not top down or bottom up, it's rather an inside out process. And has to do with consciousness. So it's a maturity development. It's about consciousness at the end, being aware of, and not so much an organizational aspect. Rather, the organizational form is a reflection of the way people think, and what the ebbf does in other communities. It's giving voice to these silent movements, and suddenly there's a chance to connect. And but it will always be that there are some in the stage of dependency, and so they need some empowerment to be at least independent, to make independent choices, to take responsibility. At this level of thinking, if I can make my own choices and take my own responsibility, sort of the ability to respond to my actions, now I can choose to be interdependent. What is my contribution to the betterment of the world or to the community or to the family? Or I can choose to be independent and do my own thing. And based on egoism and egocentrism, but then it's a choice.
Thank you, first of all, for this beautiful, clear vision that you have shared with us. My question is, what if, because you mentioned money is the consequence, but not the objective, is in that third order, which comes with maturity. What if somebody is more in the, in the healing arts, but it also you have to also make a living. And your life has always, and your work has always been to be of service, and it has always been about making a contribution. But because we live in a world that doesn't, as you said, the awareness is not there, how do we make that switch? How do we turn that around? Because I am in the healing arts, I'm also a woman, which means we've always done work sacrificially, we've always given without recompense. And so how can this be turned, these wonderful qualities with equality of men and women then becomes a reality? How are these feminine qualities then come into application for this new new way of working and being?
Sometimes when somebody is engaged, or is it coaching work or constellation work, or where is some healing work involved, sort of the difficulty to ask for recompensation, because it's a contribution to humanity or to the community, and actually I'm doing something good to the world, and I would do it for free anyways, and now I have difficulties to ask for recompensation for it. And I think this is part of this process. The society we live in is so ill, is so dissociated from the essence of being human, that we don't know what healthy systems look like anymore. And so as soon as we do a contribution, which is actually healing, the leader as a healer, which is a contribution to the betterment of the world, now I have the notion I don't want to take money for this, which is wrong. But it's part of the development because the give and take needs to be in balance. And then when we talk about, and you mentioned it, sacrifice. Oh, I sacrifice for the betterment of the world, and I do this for free, or just give me what you want, and this is what you think is worth it. The term sacrifice, from the Latin, to make something sacred. And so it's the mother, for the mother, the family is sacred. So it's uplifting, actually. But sometimes sacrifice is understood as to diminish myself. So I'm diminishing myself to make this run. I'm sacrificing my time, my energy, and I'm devaluing basically myself. It's a wrong understanding of sacrifice. If I'm sacrificing for something, the give and take, which is a principle of order, needs to be in balance. And so it's not only the opportunity, but it's the responsibility to ask for money. But it's with this level of interdependency, I have to ask for money. Now otherwise the other person is getting into systemic guilt, because somehow he wants to make sure that I received something, I want to give something back. And then those are those loops sometimes which are opened. If I'm not asking for money back, the person is constantly grateful, overwhelmed, wants to pay, or can I pay you a coffee, or can I at least pay you a dinner? And how can I give back? Sort of the notion of it needs to be equilibrated, to be balanced, and then to be closed. And otherwise it's constant loop, and somebody will always feel guilty, and they will uplift the other, would put the other on a pedestal. I'm diminishing myself, or the other way around, and it's never authentic at the end of the day. So it's the responsibility to ask for the contribution is a necessity here, to be able to contribute even more in the future.
Then from my side, I wanted to ask you some practical takeaways for leaders, right? For those leaders that really want to adopt and to adapt as well to this systemic thinking. What are 3 steps that you would recommend them to start applying, right, in their own organization?
Nowadays, the notion that the framework, we need to be customer oriented, and customer oriented is like the buzzword. How can we be more customer centric, customer oriented? And we are customer oriented, or now very innovative. We are employee oriented. We ask our employees what they want. It's like the father and the mother asking their children, 3 to 5 years old, where are we going to travel next year? So I think there are a lot of concepts out there which need to be tested and be proved and questioned. And from a systemic perspective, it's not sufficient to be customer oriented. We can be easily high profile, very well paid killer commando, but it's what you said, Selena, humanity oriented. What are the needs in my community? What are the needs of society, or where is something missing? And sort of out of this understanding, and this is very unique, everyone has a unique vision of what is missing, a unique vision of what is missing, or where is a need, where could I contribute something? And out of this mission, out of this need flows sort of the mission. And the mission in a systemic perspective is, what am I taking responsibility for? And it's still not a product or a service. It's just it can be very lofty in the beginning. What am I taking responsibility for? And then the vision is, or the question of purpose is usually, does this make sense? And here it's being tested. Does it make sense? And the vision is not who am I then, but how does humanity changes if I am starting to take responsibility for this? And the notion of the sacrifice is this. what am I contributing to this? But it's elevating me. And similarly, in alignment with my highest values. And the question of values are what is motivating me? What is important to me? What do I want to contribute? And what is motivating me? From the higher system, the information, then it's sort of the energy, the enthusiasm out of this. And then the matter, sort of how does it materialize itself? Only at the end of the chain. But it's sort of what we bring from within is the first questions, or first question to be answered for application.
Bringing our minds together and amplifying this purpose. I had a question. Going back, you mentioned something I believe in there, and this is open to everybody. Again, I know we each bring a wealth of experience into this call. This is something I've been actually tracking. It was great to hear it. I've seen it a little bit, but not much. This notion of, over time, different leaders are asked to come forward at different times, depending on the demands and circumstances of the world and their communities. And what I'm really seeing, and I'm curious what you all are seeing where you are in your sectors, that the leader as healer is really the archetype that's really asked to come forward in leadership at this very transitional, critical time we're in right now. And I'm curious if anyone else has seen that or what that might mean to them.
In my vision, is more something that we're looking forward to seeing more than something that we see. So we would love to see more of that.
Well, we are creating it right now as we give attention to it, speak to it, right? Which is why I'm so happy we're on this call.
To me, it's not so much waiting for the healer to come up, exactly as you say, is for us as individuals, and then coming together in our communities, can be a face-to-face community or a virtual community, to create that light, to create that healing, to create that atmosphere, which then becomes very attractive and then allows this to spread faster. But it all starts from one individual meeting other individuals and then being. And I fear that too many times we're waiting for somebody else, somebody else to do the right thing, to be inspiring us and things, when we have this 1 square meter of influence, which I think we should use more of in our humbleness and so forth, and really unite. And I think that's a blessing I have at ebbf and other networks, is that you come together with people who have this yearning, this desire not to tell, but to learn. And when we say a learning community, to me, that's such a beautiful place from which to start to create the healing, from a state of learning and exploration, as opposed to a state of telling and sharing and saying, this is what we should be doing.
It's a pretty exciting time right now. As we know, it's very chaotic. There's suffering, that's no doubt. But it's also a really amazing opportunity.
There's two aspects. One is we live in a chaotic world, and in any organization or in any community, people are looking for stability. So being a voice of stability, helping to balance the system in some way or another as a protagonist is important, because people respond to that. And that's from my personal experience. And the other thing is, and Andreas talked about it, was the reciprocity, the importance of reciprocity, not feeling guilty about asking when you contribute. So everyone has to make a living, and you can't get everything for free, although that is often pushed, feeling that you've gained something over someone else. So there needs to be a balance in everything we do, and justice.
Just thank you for that. That really inspired my thinking. I was actually just thinking, like, what if we came up with a list of what are the qualities of the leader as healer that we are, even, as Daniel so well said, like calling forth in ourselves. It's not looking like who's going to be the leader healer. It's like, all right here. Okay. How do we develop this? I loved hearing Nassim talking about being a healer, I think. So I love that that's already, this archetype's already in this call. But I was thinking, like, what if we came up with qualities of the leader as healer? Because it's different than the necessary qualities of leadership in the past, or even, what we're seeing right now. So we're on that change edge. And that reciprocity we keep talking about with the flow of abundance, it's the natural order of things, to give and receive. And it's like, I think of it as a circle, maybe like this one behind me. I think of it as a circle. And anytime we block that flow, we say, no, don't pay me. And it could be money, it could be some other way. But right in this culture, the energetic exchange that we need for our livelihood is currently money. That may change. It's been different in the past, but right now it's often money. But it's like anytime we block that, we're creating a disruption in a natural system of abundance and flow. So it's interesting to think about that.
Maybe to finalize, it's the understanding that every social system runs through these 3 orders of dependency, then to independency and interdependency. And may this be, as an individual, being independent sometimes these mystical words or metaphors help us. The princess and the prince, they come from, it's a reflection of independence. Mm-hmm. It's the women who found their principles, who found her own priorities. She's a princess. It's a reflection of independency. And then the king, in Spanish it's rey, la realidad. He creates new realities which are based on interdependencies. And sort of all social systems, as an individual, as a couple in a relationship, but also for communities, go through these processes which need to start what Philip described as the protagonist. And only from independency can be made the choices for interdependency. May this be then, it's not because I have to be in the relationship, but because I choose to be in the relationship. And this is the healing process, is part of getting independent. And interdependency is from that stage of now I can go on and create these atmospheres or environments for others to heal, but also not only to survive, but to thrive. And I think this is where we accompany and we come in to give examples. But ultimately the work is for each individual to make themselves.